now on to part 2, and again, we're planning on finishing. We're planning on finishing by noon, as we had talked about for 1 hour. So thanks for rejoining. We're going to cover the last 2 sections, which are previews of the overall series. So the 3rd section is around positive procurement, and again, these sections on carbon, water and waste, products and certification, and social responsibility, these are also the 15 questions that the Sustainability Index, pioneered by Walmart, is asking. So if you or your colleagues are working with or for Walmart, these are all initiatives that there'll be increasing accountability for. So SureGround and HIP are 2 resources that you can use to help to know it, plan it, and do it. Okay, so the 3rd category is positive procurement, and Office Depot is our example here. So they actually have certified green products that are both drawing attention, more than 6,000 products, at least as of the most recent count. And they shade those products, whether they're light green, bright green, or dark green. And then companies can purchase, and as companies have increasing weightings for sustainable products that are beneficial either for the environment or society, Office Depot is capturing some of that market. So that, I'm not sure it's on this slide, but that's a more than $1 billion business for Office Depot. So third-party certifications. There are more certifications than you can shake a stick at. So specifically, if you go to ecolabeling.org and check the spelling there, it's got 2 L's and, well, 3 L's total in labeling. There are more than 270 eco-labels today. What's great about what eco-labeling at the website does is they also specify them by location and by industry and give a mini review of them. So some of these you may be familiar with, like Energy Star, Sustainable Forestry Initiative, WaterSense, Fair Trade. And one of the oldies and goodies is Good Housekeeping. What you may not know if you're more recently familiar with Good Housekeeping is there's an actual guarantee behind it. Good Housekeeping has contracted and insured with an insurance company for the value of the products that get the Good Housekeeping seal to make sure that they deliver. And there's even part of the insurance policy covers the Good Housekeeping magazine, the products that are advertised in the Good Housekeeping magazine for between 1 year and 2 in terms of performance. Those do exclude financial products and weight loss products, but if they're physical products made by companies, they tend to be covered by the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. It's one of the long-time certifications that's seared into U.S. culture, at least. Okay, so how does this translate into business value? We'll be this is one of our examples of the food supply. So Clive had asked about whether we're going to touch on that. We're not going to touch about aquaculture, but we are going to talk about this right here. So hopefully this will answer your question, Clive. So Hannaford Brothers is a 170 store chain in New England in the U.S. They are owned by a Belgian company. And part of what they've done now is implement a type of sustainability index in the store. So it covers all the dairy products, all the produce, less so in terms of frozen foods and prepackaged foods, but they're working their way through. I think it's over 17,000 products are rated, which you can learn more at the Hannaford Brothers website. Now, as these have gone on the shelves, a very interesting shift in consumer behavior has both happened and been able to be quantified. So whole milk, which gets the full 3 out of 3 stars in the Hannaford rating system, has increased in share by 1%, while whole milk, which gets no stars because of its higher fat content and possibly because of additives, has dropped by 4%. In ground beef, the 5% of market share has shifted. So more fat-free has gone up 5%, and ground beef with no stars, either because of low transparency or low performance, has gone down 5%. And then chicken, similarly, high-rated chicken supply has gone up, and low-rated has gone down. So Hannaford is working closely with its suppliers to understand, just as we mentioned Good Guide earlier, what are the factors of production, what is the process of production, and how does that lead to something that's good for the consumer. And these products tend to either move faster and in the store turn over faster, or in some cases, and this is the case for whole milk still tends to command a price premium of about 100%, but the demand continues to exceed supply. So Clive also teed up another question or two here. Is grass-fed versus corn-fed an indicator for beef? I'm not sure if it is for Hannaford Brothers, but I do know that for Stonyfield Farms, when they did a life cycle analysis from end to end of their yogurt, what Gary, the CEO, said was the highest carbon intensity in the supply chain was what the cows were eating. And so the cows that were eating corn emitted more methane outside the back of the cow, increased gas. And methane is 23 times, 20 to 22 times the factor of CO2. So reducing that has a big impact. And so they're in the process of shifting to grass-fed cows. Companies like Walmart have blogged about the use of antibiotics in the milk, and there's an active debate that you can engage Walmart on online in doing that.
And I think the other question there was around some of the fisheries, and you might want to take a look at, I think the Monterey Aquarium has a list of sustainable fish, so if you're interested in that and you purchase a lot of fish and interested in sustainable food chains. The other issue with sustainable food chains that comes up is genetically modified, and whether that's a good or a bad thing. Drought resistant, that certainly can make things more sustainable in terms of using less water, but people wonder if that's really the right answer. It's definitely a complicated issue.
Yes, and beef is one of the most water-intensive products, both in raising beef and converting beef to be eatable, let alone transporting around to retail food locations. So things like feedlots versus free range, and the ecological footprint that results from that, and the water intensity, the use of antibiotics that not only go into the cow, out into the milk, into our bodies, out our bodies, into the water treatment facilities, and possibly out our tap again. These are very pressing issues. So that's why life cycle analysis is critical, especially when thinking about your food. And as Laurie has pointed out, the pesticide impact, as well as the excrement impact on the water, is part of that life cycle. So again, in the Know It, Plan It, Do It, knowing what percentage of your purchases, digging deep into your supply chain, knowing where those greenhouse gases and other factors that there's an active chat about right now, which is it's great that we have so many experts on the line. How do they lead to an appropriate and consumer-friendly third-party certification? Late last night, there was an ad on TV, Tropicana, which if you read the side of your Tropicana orange juice carton, you'll see the train that comes from Florida to the Northeast that they're promoting. But recently, they've started sourcing oranges from Brazil as well. And so Tropicana's competitors are starting to dig into them publicly for that. And if you read the New York Times, you'll see from time to time Campbell's Soup and Progresso, which is owned by General Mills, have an ongoing battle for what the sodium content is of their soup and the non-natural MSG that might be added.